Welcome back, Squatchers, to the Squatchers Lounge podcast. That's right. We are back live again this week. This week we are talking about Texas and the Sabine River tracks of 1996. Old Three-Toe, as he's been known for some time now. That's right. We got a brand new Quasi theory from the great Dean Cooper and camping tips for stupid rewind, as well as another Bigfoot Campfire Story. So here you are. I'm here. You're there. That makes the whole thing absolutely spectacular. And we are talking about Bigfoot tonight. That's right. Now, I do have a little bit of news to cover for you tonight, I think, somewhere here. It's lost in the 50s tonight here somewhere, but I'll find it in just a moment. It's been a couple of weeks since we had a show last week. I took the week off. I was supposed to be in Bluff Creek, but that didn't happen. Unfortunately, the trip got postponed, but I will be leaving here Sunday night and heading up there Monday through Thursday this week. So I do look forward to that trip. Brown Dwarf, if you're watching this, bro, send me an email. Let me know what's up. We're going to be down at Louse Camp, so that's what we're looking to do. And the great Rowdy Kelly from the Bluff Creek Project is going to come out and meet us one of those days. We're going to take a trip down to the film site, and it's going to be spectacular. All right, so here, finally, I found the news that I was looking for. Boom, boom, boom. Yes. As YouTube slowly takes everything away from their creators, including the live hangouts, they are stripping it to make it nearly useless so that we go to other things. I swear, they just don't care to make money anymore. Hey, quirky destinations. That's right. The Skunk Ape Headquarters down there in Florida. Yeah, I've been there a couple of times. While you've heard of the search of Bigfoot, have you heard of the Skunk Ape? Jack and Dave Sheely. Now, Jack was Dave's son. He was quite young the last time I was down there. Apparently, he has followed in the footsteps of his daddy, have devoted their lives to searching for the skunk ape, a Bigfoot-like creature known for his ape-like appearance and skunk-like smell. The Sheelys operate the headquarters and campground in Ochapee, Florida. Their headquarters sees visitors every year from all over the country. It's been featured on the Discovery Channel, the History Channel, Animal Planet, the Smithsonian Magazine, and many, many more. Sadly, I've been there. It's okay. You should stop there. If you're driving by it in a big Cypress, you should definitely stop in there. Say hi to Dave. Buy something from him. I mean, he's been there for so long. What's the worst that can happen? It's $12 to get into the center and check things out. Keep it going, people. Yeah, the skunk ape. Ho, ho, ho. All right. Guy builds giants from wood and hides them in the wilderness for people to find. I think it's friggin' fantastic. The Danish artist Thomas Dambo creates larger-than-life sculptures hidden around his hometown in Copenhagen. His sculptures require secret poems and clues in order to locate them. It says each has its own treasure map or poem engraved into stone to steer people onto unfamiliar paths where they'll discover them. Each is made of recycled wood consisting of roughly 600 pieces taken from pallets, fences, and even old wooden sheds. With the help of local volunteers, Dambo was able to complete his series of giant wooden sculptures. There he is, little Tildy. That's just freaking awesome. I don't know. I'd crap myself. I think if I came around the corner and, especially at night, yeah, I would crap myself. And by the way, on thermal, this thing would look completely different than the trees it's hanging on to. So, yeah, talk about scap the crap out of people. Thomas on the mountain, just hanging out. Yeah, these are absolutely Oscar under the bridge. Dude, I'm not sure what Oscar's doing, but I don't think those little kids should be there. Sorry. All right, let's move right along. Searching for Bigfoot. That's right. The Apache Junction and Gold Canyon News. They're searching for Bigfoot in the Rebus Valley. Many years ago, I received a call from a man in Northern California who was interested in Yeti or Bigfoot. He had heard that the Rebus Valley and landlocked Biotic Island high above the Soren Desert floor that supported a dense ponderosa pine forest. He wanted to know how to get to the Rebus Ranch. Well, This goes on for quite a bit to talk about it, but unfortunately, it comes up with the name C. Thomas Biscardi. Dun, dun, dun. I swear, this guy is like a bad penny. He just never goes away. So, searching for Bigfoot. That's right. Tom Biscardi. Kentucky man finds family of bears sitting in his car. Sir, I'm going to need you to step. Oh, crap. A Kentucky man was in disbelief last week when he saw what he went and looked like a family of bears packing up for vacation. Chad Moore is the owner of CMO Barbershop in Owensboro, Kentucky, was visiting Gatlinburg, Tennessee, when he walked up on a black bear cub behind the wheel of his car. Then, to make matters worse, two more climbed in while the mother stood by. That's right, boys. You teach that dude a lesson. Eat his car. I was telling my friends, I want to see a bear. I want to see a bear, you know? Well, been lifting weights a little bit. I want to see a bear tussle with the bear. And it was like, well, you get 4 for 1. Now, what do you do? What do you do, big boy? And I was like, nah, I think I'll pass. Yeah, I think I would pass with 4 bears in my car, too. And they will destroy the interior of a car in like seconds. Oh, it's ridiculous what they will do to the inside of a car. Hey, does Bigfoot have a sweet tooth? Hey, we're hitting Fox News again this week. It's freaking crazy. North Carolina woman says the legendary creatures likes candy and cookies. That's right. Even Bigfoot can't help himself with the cookie jars around. Legendary creature was reported spotted by a North Carolina woman in the woods behind her home, according to WCNC report. While reports of the mystical creature in North Carolina are nothing new, it apparently has a taste for processed sugar and carbs, mostly like candy, cookies. They love peanut brittle, chocolate, peanut butter sandwich, said Shelby, resident of Vicky Cook. They don't like apples and bananas, really, because that's what most squatchers use as bait. So you can go on to read this article out there at foxnews.com and find out what else they like. Hey, this was a really interesting article I came across as well. Neanderthals actually glued their tools together. For a long time, I didn't want to give Neanderthals any real credit for being humans, but they really, really were. They had language, they had art, they had music, of a sense, and now we're coming to find out they had complex tool making abilities as well. Neanderthals glued their stone tools into place on wooden handles, a new study suggests. Archaeologists found chemical traces of pine resin on 10 stone tools from the western coast of central Italy. That's pretty solid evidence that Neanderthals living in Italy were hafting their stone tools and securing them in place with resin between 55,000 and 40,000 years ago, long before Homo sapiens set foot in Europe. So how much smarter did we really get per leap? Maybe not so smart. Getting a grip on the stone tools for around 3 million years, hominins had been shaping various cutting, pounding, and scraping tools out of stone, but something was still missing. Imagine trying to skin and butcher a deer using a knife with no handle, and you've got a life for most hominin of history. Hafting tools was a major improvement. Typically, hafting a stone tool involves fitting it to a notch or a slot in a wooden handle. The tool maker might then lash it into place with tightly wrapped sinews or plant fibers, but people also use tree resin or pitch as glue to help hold the tool in place. So big technology step forward when it came to making tools. All right, and that, people, is the news. Hey, if you like what we do here, consider going out and becoming a patron at patreon.com/Cryptid Corner. Reverend Jeff's Cryptid Corner and Paranormal Escapades. That's right. I will be adding all of last month's Bigfoot Campfire Stories up there this week, as well as a couple of bonus things for you members. So check it out, patreon.com/Cryptid Corner for $1. That's right. General admission gets you in, and that, as they say, folks, is that. All right, on to one of my favorite segments of the show. That's right, it is time for Mr. Dean Cooper's Quasi Theory of the Week, and we've been waiting for a brand new one for a while, and he has not disappointed. So away we go. And now, Quasi Theories from a Quasi Scientist, with your host, Dean Cooper.
That's a load of bull, or one falling star you really don't want to see. The Taurid meteor stream, which is largely a broken-up comet that we see as meteor showers in November, is in an orbit that occasionally intersects Earth's orbit. Usually it's the outer fringe of the stream, little guys that make pretty streaks of light coming from the direction of Taurus the Bull. Sometimes it's bigger ones, like the one that exploded over Tunguska back on June 30th, 1908. Sometimes a whopping big batch of ice and stone and iron comes cruising in, like the batch that, cruising in at around 65,000 miles an hour, smacked into, mainly, northwestern North America about 12,500 years ago and killed off all the megafauna and the early Clovis culture humans. And it set fire to most of North America. It's called the Younger Dryas Catastrophe. The last glaciation of the Ice Age, which we are technically still in, is called the Last Glacial Maximum, or LGM. This acronym should not be confused with other LGMs, such as Little Green Men, or Lone Gunmen, or Laser Guided Missile, or even, God forbid, Let's Go Mets. The last glaciation, which had been gradually ending around 15,000 years ago, started back up again, long-tailed heavenly climbing star, as the Ojibwe elders still call it, first very quickly melted much of the remaining continental glaciers, causing the massive worldwide flooding most old cultures remember. Plato's Atlantis sure did. Oh, wait, they can't remember it because Atlantis sank. It was the Egyptians who remembered them and told Solon, the Greek philosopher. Really, though, it didn't sink, the oceans rose. It's all relative to your point of view. Then the massive burning of forests and prairies, about 10% of the Earth's surface, blocked much of the sunlight for a couple 3 years, dropping global temperatures drastically, kicking off the return of the glaciers. That lasted about 1,000 years. The planet then returned to its regularly scheduled program. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. That's BHAIDIN.com.
That's right. Bydean.com. That's right. That's where the text of that blog will be. Yeah, comets. One of these days, it's probably how we're all going to go out, just like the dinosaurs. Everybody do the dinosaur. All right. So up to the camping tips for stupids. Hey, if you're out there watching live, you may want to drop me a message in the chat box, because shout outs to the hangout are next, coming up right here on the Squatchers Lounge podcast. Enjoy camping tips for stupids.
Camping tips for stupids. Tip number 24. The night is the opposite of day, and that means no more natural sunlight to see the surrounding environment with. Nighttime in the woods is a whole nother world, a scary world, full of monsters and fat, naked, drunk hicks who drank all the beer or thought it would be fun to put a keg in the campfire. Yeah, watch out for those bastards. Now, unless you got superhuman night vision, most of the time, especially away from the city, darkness levels out in the sticks is a whole lot more darker than in or near a city where the ambient light can actually make the environment. Campfires, LED lights, and propane lanterns are your main sources for makeshift light to light up that upside down time in the great outdoors. Just remember not to stare right at the light source. It'll ruin your night vision. And also a pro tip, red light, flashlights, and lamps save your night vision, allowing you to still see everything, but won't flatline you either. And if all else fails, just become a damn werewolf and get chased by those boys on mountain monsters. Don't eat buck. You'll clog your arteries. This has been Camping Tips for Stupids. Remember to spay and neuter your idiot population.
Spay and neuter your idiot population. That's right. Right here on the Squatchers Lounge podcast. It's one of my favorite ones. All right, here we are, folks. We are back at it. It is time to see who is hanging out with us live tonight. There's a bunch of y'all out there, so let's see who is on board. There he is. Happy birthday to you, man, Mr. Rod Dupree, and the place to be. That's right. So glad you are back with us, man. Happy birthday, Mr. Lance Windsor. How you doing there, man, for the Great White North? Miss Bella, that's right. Maria Allegria, how you doing there? Let's see. Tim McCune's checking in the house tonight. How you doing there? Chris Rico saying howdy from Texas. Howdy back at you. We're talking about Texas tonight. Josu Salazar. I'm hoping I still get that right. Kenneth Viking, how you doing there, champ? Glad you are with us as well. The other Viking in the house, the main Viking we know, Mr. Don Reif. That's right. There he is. Glad to see you are with us as well. So moving on down the list here, let's see. Mr. Shane Barber, how you doing? You're in the house with us tonight as well. Keith Harden, there he is. Always reminds me of that Keith Nash kid from Paul. I don't know why. That's what I envision every time I see that name. Weird. Kid. Kid. Say, man, glad you're with us. Dave Jackson, there he is, along with the Can Squanch, just checking us out tonight. Oh, moving on down the list here. There he is, Mr. Dean Cooper. That's right, our quasi theorist in hand. There he is. Moving on up to the east side, to the deluxe apartment. I'm sure that's copyright. Oh, sorry. Donald Fuller's in the house with us. How you doing there, Donald? Glad you have joined us as well. Moving on down the line here. Aaron Duncan. Hey, I'm glad you are with us tonight as well. Let's see who else is in the house. There's the brown dwarf. Hey, dude, send me an email if you want to come out and hang out with us, man. We're going to be there Monday through Thursday. It's just two of us now. So, you know, we've got plenty of time to entertain. We're going to go down and visit the film set. I'd love to have you come out and camp with us if you can. All right. The stanky mustache. There he is. He's in the house with us as well. Gone trapping. Go Pack Go. Gary Connor, how you doing? Glad you are with us as well. I'm hoping I didn't miss anybody out there. If you didn't say hi to me, I don't know. There's Marcia Schaefer. Happy birthday. Yeah, that's right. We are right back in it. Okay, and that appears to be the last of it. Yes, this Monday, Brown Dwarf. We are going up there this Monday. We didn't make it last Monday. We're going up there. We're leaving sometime in the night, Sunday night, and we will be there sometime early Monday morning down at Louse Camp. We'll be coming through town up the 299. All right, so back at it as I promised. That's right. We are going to talk about a little place in Texas. That's right. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so the Sabine River casts. That's right. They're, the Sabine River there in Texas, where I first discovered and remember seeing these prints was on, I'm not sure if it was a Monster Quest or whether it was just a Bigfoot documentary on either the History Channel or the National Geographic, but that was where I was first introduced to a man known as Chester Moore. Now, Chester Moore is a Bigfoot researcher in Texas, and he came across a report of this and went and checked it out, and actually came across two tracks that he was able to cast, one being a full track and the other one being a partial track. But the strangeness to these tracks were the fact that they only had 3 toes, and that was one of the things, one of the hypotheses that Chester was known for, was that the Bigfoot were dwindling in population so much that they could really only breed, crossbreed with close DNA. And, it could very well have been causing a problem to only last with, to only come in with 3 toes as a result of such. But usually you get extra things when you start breeding that close, like a third eye or an extra ear, or maybe a fourth hand. I don't know. But again, though, back in 1996, we were still really not all that advanced in our research techniques or our casting techniques to really even understand. At the time, we had thought that we were taking a cast of what the animal's foot actually looked like, rather than the result of whatever that animal did while it stood in that place and interacted with the substrate that it was in, because that's what an animal track actually is just the left behind remnants. Maybe this animal stopped and ground its toes into the ground, or maybe there were rocks that some of the toes couldn't get down past, and only 2 or 3 toes pushed in past the rocks into the mud. As you cast something like that, it becomes very, very difficult. But I remember Chester being on that show on a night ops. They were on a mission to kill the Bigfoot in their area, because they just wanted to prove it once and for all. This wasn't that they were murderous bastards. It wasn't that they were out for blood. They just wanted a sample of the animal to be able to say once and for all, there it was. Now, in later years, Chester has been doing animal rescues and a type of a traveling zoo or animal experience. A born-again Christian, does a lot of work with kids. Still doing adventures. He's out there doing sharks. I saw him take some pictures of some snakes, and he's been doing some really cool work. So he's still out there, still a naturalist, still out there in the woods doing it. Still does some Bigfoot stuff here and there. But that was where I first heard of the Sabine River, Texas area. Now, saying that, the next thing that I looked at, I started to look to see if there were other events that went along with the type of thing that Chester was that they had discovered there in these tracks. And of course, I found here's one from 1988, some years earlier. It was in the spring of April. It was in 1988. My friends and I spent our weekends and breaks from school and hunting camp on the Sabine River in Panola County, Texas. We would hunt and fish and live off the land mostly. One evening, we had been fishing and caught a lot of catfish, so we cleaned our cat at our camp water well. It was an old type well with a hand pump. We built a fire and began to cook our fish. We had just finished eating when we heard a noise from where we cleaned our fish. We're used to having varmints such as raccoons, opossums, coyotes come in and get guts from the fish. Well, I got my flashlight and my .22 rifle to shoot whatever was getting the guts. When I was about 50 or so yards from the well, I heard a moan, not a growl, but a moan. I could see a large dark mass as well. I thought it was just several raccoons in a wad eating, so I raised my light, and when I did, the large mass stood erect on 2 feet. I thought it was someone playing a trick on me. I immediately called to the person, or what I thought to be a person. I told them I had a gun and I was going to use it. The thing didn't move or answer. I called again and said, "This ain't funny. I'm scared and I'm going to shoot." And I stand 6 feet and weigh 250 pounds. This thing was at least 6'5" or taller and bigger than me. As I got closer, my light exposed more of the thing. It began to move as I got closer. It was covered in what looked like mud-covered hair. I can't tell you the color because it was matted up with mud, just like pigs do when they get rid of biting insects. The closer I got, the more scared I got. I fired a couple of shots into the air to see if it was a joker, and they would tell me not to shoot. The thing ran off, but not far. I could hear its footsteps in the leaves, and then it just walked back to tell my buddies to get help. None of them would go back with me to the well. The next day, there were large 5-toed footprints at the well, and all the guts were gone except the heads. My buddies all said I was playing a prank and I made the tracks myself, but I wear a size 13 shoes, and these tracks were longer and wider than my shoe. I spent lots of times in the woods in East Texas, and I'm as close to an expert as you can get on the wildlife around here, and I can tell you what I saw was as yet unclassified animal. I'd crap myself. I've had an experience like that, and yeah, I peed myself a little bit. It's scary. People say, "Oh, I'm going to go Bigfooting. I want to see me a Bigfoot." It's all fun and games until Bigfoot shows up. Is Bigfoot in East Texas? The answer: a Panola County wildlife expert spent a week in Wana. That's right. Is Bigfoot in East Texas? Apparently, the TV show host Les Stroud, that's right, the survivor man himself, contacted Jeff Stewart, a Panola County cryptozoologist, a person involved with the search for animals whose existence has not been proven. That's right. That's what they say cryptozoology is. A bucket list dream come true, he says. The man was as polite and professional, yet after being with him for a week, I felt like we had been friends for 30 years. He still texts me 2 or 3 times a week asking how I'm doing. The whole crew was nice. They were like family to one another. He immediately treated us like family too. They took Les to the Sabine River, where they spent a week putting out trail cams. They spent a week looking for the Sabine thing, as it's called locally. Did vocal records and calls, put out traps, hid cameras and microphones, and hid fruit and microphones and taxidermy animals and placed those out in the woods. And they recorded anything that came. I think that's ingenious using taxidermy. I really do. I think it might even hide some of the smell of a camera. The trip was eventful, Stewart said, but to find out what happened, you'd have to watch the episode of Survivor Man. So Survivor Man himself actually went on down to way down, down on the Chattahoochee, down on the Sabine River in Texas itself. Here in 1996, Orange County, Texas, a friend of mine called to see if I could find any animal tracks around her property. Something's been scaring the chickens at night and making loud, unusual yells, and sometimes coming near the house and grunting. After looking at the property, some 13-inch tracks were found and a cast was made. A cast was poor, but it really scared the owner of the property. First thing she asked was, could it be a Bigfoot? The woman's son said she was afraid to go into the woods near his home. When asked why, he said it was because she saw a man in the woods. When asked why a man would scare him, he said, well, my friend wouldn't say, but he looked terrified and will never go into those woods again. And finally, the last article that I could find about there on the Sabine River is from the North American Wood Ape Conservancy, the NAWAC. For a long time, I really thought these guys were the great hope in Bigfoot, but unfortunately, we're still kind of waiting. They've made a lot of claims, but there isn't a whole lot of evidence to go along with those claims. A former Hood pilot reports a dusk highway encounter a few miles east of the Sabine River. I was in the Army and stationed at Fort Hood, Texas, was headed home as I crossed the Sabine River Bridge from Texas and entered Louisiana on LA-8, headed east towards Leesville, approximately 3 miles into Louisiana, where the road entered a long, shallow curve to the north. There was a creature kneeling on the shoulder of the road. It was heavily built, 2-legged animal with a round or slightly elongated head and eyes that shined glow amber in my headlights. I saw it move its head and look at my car. If I had to estimate its height, I would have to say 6 feet to 6 feet 6 inches if standing erect. I never mentioned this incident to anyone until last year, and my son and I were watching a Bigfoot program on TV. So, it does actually seem like there is quite a bit of activity that goes on around the Sabine River. So if you guys are out there in Texas, that would definitely be one of the hot spots that I would be looking for. All right, let's take one quick look back in the live hangout and see if I missed anybody. There's Mr. Beef Butter. There you go. Yeah, he is. He just won't leave me. He just won't chill tonight. He's pretty good, but not tonight. Natalie Smith made it in for a late appearance. There's the Squatch Box. I'm glad you showed up because I would have not said hi to Christopher, and that would have been absolutely horrible because I missed him last week too. Hey, Richard Barfield is in the house as well. And I believe that is the last of them. Lounge Podcast at gmail.com is the podcast email. And I am so glad to see there is Darian McKinney. Hello there to you as well. Again, I think that is the absolute last of you guys. So glad everybody was here tonight. And we will see you next week. I want you to enjoy the this Bigfoot Campfire Story. May the Squatch be with you. What the hell is that? I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that was a Bigfoot. Let me tell you a story. These stories are based upon true events. Welcome to another Bigfoot Campfire Story. This one comes to us from Northern California, where I was approached at a Starbucks as I sat drinking my coffee because I was wearing a Skymania County Bigfoot shirt designed by none other than Guy Edwards of the Bigfoot Lunch Club. It was strange. A man named Troy came over, sat down at the table next to me, and asked about my shirt. When I explained that I was an investigator and a report collector, he told me the most unbelievable story. Being a firefighter, it's difficult to really be able to tell people stories in public like this, but I'll give you this one. We had been sent up to Plumas County to fight a raging forest fire in the National Forest. It had already been ablaze for 12 hours before we arrived as backup for the crews already on site. I was with two other guys, Marty and Dave, and we were sent 3 miles west of the crew to assess the fire spread and the speed of the fire to help them decide what measures to take. Well, we walked through the terrain as it was very rough being the Sierras, and it was important to find anything burning in our path. The main fire line was only about a mile above us, so we really needed to be careful not to get stuck in a blaze. The further away from the crew we got, the closer to the fire we seemed to be. The flanks were closing in fast, and there was no way we were going to make that whole 3 miles, but we had to try at least. We noticed the wildlife was leaving the area quickly. The deer, bear, even the rodents were all on the move. Packs of coyotes were screaming and wailing as they moved away from the fire, calling in their pack members. That was when we heard the first strange vocal. Well, Dave looked at Marty, and Marty hit me in the chest, and we all stopped and said, "What the hell was that?" We came from about 100 yards up the hill, so we all ran in that direction. It sounded like a screaming woman. I had heard rabbits cry like babies, so maybe it was just an animal, but we definitely had to check it out. Marty was the first one to the top of the hill, and he froze in his tracks. Well, as I reached the top, I could see a small fire line coming down the hill. I thought that's what froze him, but no, when Dave reached to the top of the hill, he screamed, "What the hell are those things?" I said, "What things?" And Marty pointed out some 50 yards away what had to have been a family of what has to be the mythical Bigfoot. 2 big ones, a medium-sized one, and a little one in a tree that didn't seem to want to come down. All covered in the same kind of thick hair, just like the description say, domed head, weird long arms, but some look like a man. Well, one of the big ones stood at the base of the tree, screaming at the little one. I'm guessing it wants it to come down. When the biggest one jumped up what seemed to be 15 feet straight into the air onto the trunk of the tree and began to shake the living crap out of it until the little one actually fell clear out of the tree. Wham! Down to the ground it fell, and then the one that had been screaming reached down, picked it up, and all 4 of them ran off very fast down the hill, away from us and away from the flames. The 3 of us standing there, what must have been a shock, finally came to our senses as we began to gag on the smoke. We turned back down the hill and returned to the crew and reported the fire line coming this way. Strange that none of us brought up the animals that we saw. It was never discussed again between us. We were all split up and worked different parts of the fire. Strangely enough, this is the first time I've ever told anyone this story. Like anything else in the forest, do it long enough and strange things are bound to happen to you. This firefighter became a believer that day, as I guess many others would have too. Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you.